Well, only two of us. So you know what that means. Jurg is not here because in the throes of his other passion, which is I guess F1 hockey Disney Stars on Ice or whatever it is. Um something like that. But so it's just two of us on the Sports Agents of Chaos, Podfather Rick, and of course Games Master Justin. We gotta get the Game Master in your title at some point. We gotta figure that out.
Maybe soon. Maybe soon.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We're coming to you live on a Thursday night. It is, of course, a football night. But let's be honest here. You'd rather watch us than watch the current game that's on because, according to the headline, who isn't hurt for the Saints tonight? Because no Olave, I guess, no Taysom. Rashid Shaheed is out for a while, maybe the season probably. There were cars out
officially.
There were cars out for a bit. And who else is going to get hurt? Who the heck knows?
Well, Alvin Kamara's back, so.
Oh, well, that's good. That can help fantasy if you have him on your fantasy team there. But once again, welcome to the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast, episode 124. We're going to talk about some AFC teams that have, loaded up and had some interesting things happen this past week. So, other than that, all things are good, and we are ready to go. Of course, since the Jets fans are taking over, we have Jets colors for our graphics and lower thirds because, we can have nice things, of course. So with that in mind, I say we begin with, of course, the thing we always begin with, which is the games. And Justin, what do you have for us this evening to start off with?
How about a little Would You Rather?
I love a little Would You Rather. We haven't had that in quite a while. So what do you what's on the table for you tonight?
So this question comes a little bit out of spite. But there were some key performances last week. And if you didn't have a wheel, Rick,
okay,
and you had to choose, would you rather be a Jaguars fan, a Cowboys fan, a Jets fan, or what was the other team that was horrible last week?
I mean, there were plenty, to be honest.
No, but there was a couple of teams that were just really bad last week. We can leave it with those three.
So Jacksonville, Dallas, or the Jets are the three options.
No, Cleveland.
I was going to say the Browns were probably your fourth option.
Cleveland was my fourth, yes.
Yeah. Yikes. This is a tough one. Jacksonville, Dallas, Jets, or Cleveland?
It's really between the two because if you really think about it, the two perennially bad teams that are never even a little bit good are the ones that, I mean, the best that Cleveland and Jacksonville have been in my entire life was they made it to a playoff series. I think they both won one playoff series in my lifetime.
Jacksonville actually, I think, has made in our lifetime.
Well, they've won a couple actually because there was there was a Blake Bortles era where they won a couple series, and there was the
expansion era way back in the beginning.
Yeah, what was the quarterback's name?
Mark Brunell.
Mark Brunell. Yeah.
They've actually been the two AFC title games in their franchise history.
Yes.
But to 50-50 this Regis Philbin style, no one actually claims they're a Jags or a Browns fan. It just happens. You just happen to be a fan of those. So really the question is a Cowboys fan or a Jets fan?
That's why I took out the two, because the Jets are New York. They have a lot of fans, and they've been good at times, I guess. The Cowboys are always perennially good, but also always perennially disappointing since the 90s.
Well, so that's the thing is that, the Cowboys haven't made or won a Super Bowl in 30 years, whereas the Jets, it's been going on. We're closing in on 60 years without a Jets Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. I feel like the expectations of being a Cowboys fan, they're America's team. They're always America's team. Everyone knows them as such. But I think if you look at the two teams and look at their situations, I think you can make an argument to be a Cowboys fan over a Jets fan.
Why? Because they're better most of the time?
Oh, I feel like their division's a lot more winnable at the current moment than because the Jets are already down. I mean, they lost on Monday night, which means they're already down 1-0 to the Bills. So they're going to lose. That tiebreaker.
Jets are 1-1 in the division.
They're 1-1 in the division, but having that that leg up. Buffalo having that leg up on them going into a tiebreaker scenario would probably force them, if the Jets do end up making the playoffs, to maybe have to face Buffalo again in Buffalo in January. Whereas Dallas still has a shot to win this division. I mean, I know Washington is the surprise story right now, and I know that Philly is what Philly is, and so I feel like the understanding of all of that tells me that I would pick Dallas because I think there's a lot more trust you have in some of their main pieces. Like it's interesting because Dak is younger than Aaron Rodgers, but the question is, do you trust him? I don't really trust Aaron Rodgers that much, but I think Dak is a little bit.
So you trust Dak?
I don't know if I trust Dak so much, but I know that he will probably be the starting quarterback next year. Can't say the same about Aaron Rodgers because we don't really know what the status is on that end. The Jets have a better running game, that's for sure, but Dallas always seems to, if they can probably reload in the draft at the running back position. I mean, look at what Ashton Genty's doing at Boise State. If he's available in the draft and the Cowboys can take him and make him a stud, that's something to say. CeeDee Lamb, one of the best wide receivers in the game right now. I understand, Garrett Wilson and a player we'll talk about a little bit later. But I feel like this Dallas team, again, they're playing in a division that, while it's tough, and while right now Washington is surprising, you have only one other team to really contend with year in and year out, and that's Philadelphia, because the Giants are still middling at best. The Jets, if everything sits right, all four of those teams can be contenders. I mean, New England right now, not so much, but they're young, but they're going to get older, they're going to get wiser and more veteran. Miami, if Tua is able to come back, with all the weapons they have, they're still a threat to me. And I feel like in the case that, Buffalo is still Buffalo. So I think it would be more Dallas. I mean, look, we're Jets fans, but I feel like there's a little more faith that I have in the Cowboys to make the best out of a bad situation at the current moment. Because again, the way I'm looking at it right now, the division is more winnable. So that would be my thing. Are you on the opposite side of the coin there? Or
I mean, I'm biased. I can't not pick the Jets. I think the question in that case would be: would you rather be hyped in the beginning and always let down, or would you rather expect to be let down and excited when you actually do something?
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's a fair assessment too, I think.
Yeah.
I completely understand that one too. Yeah, for sure. So I don't know. I mean, we'll kind of see how it goes from there. But in the meantime, while I have you, because we're going to talk about our main topics in just a little bit, how about a little fact or fiction for you, Justin?
Sure. For me?
Yeah, for you. Yeah. So you get to take part in this one.
It's exciting.
I know. Based on the current week that has been had with two teams that we'll discuss a little bit later, in this segment coming up here. Tyreek Hill mentioned that he's still the best wide receiver in the National Football League. Fact or fiction?
I'd probably say fact.
Okay.
His skill level hasn't changed. The pieces around him have changed. And it's not his fault that they were not prepared for this, what seemed like an inevitability. I mean, Tua is just always hurt.
No.
It sucks. He is a really, really exciting young player when he's on the field, but he's not ever fully healthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether it is the scary concussions, which again, completely out of his control. I'm not blaming him for anything. It sucks. I wouldn't wish it on him. I don't wish it on anyone else. But I would argue that he's as close to a quarterback-proof receiver that there is. But, I mean, is Jalen Waddle playing again, or is he still banged up?
I think he's perennially banged up. I think
so you're not really covering him very much.
Yeah.
You're stacking the box.
Yep.
You're not letting them throw the ball to Tyreek behind the line of scrimmage. And you don't have a guy that can hit him on a regular route. So It's not necessarily his fault that his stats have declined. I mean, we can bring up what he's done over the past, I don't know, couple weeks since Tua has gone down. I mean,
Yep.
he started out a little slow this year, which is not something you usually say about a guy like Tyreek Hill, but
Yep.
I mean, over 5 games, he still has 286 yards, 23 catches, and a touchdown, including an 80-yarder. So, this is unusual circumstances, but I think that's a fact. I think that you can make the argument that Tyreek Hill is still the best receiver in football.
Yeah, I mean, last year 119 catches for almost 1,800 yards, 13 touchdowns. And the year before that, very similar stats: 119 catches, 1,700 yards, and 7 scores. Is there a consideration in your mind for a CeeDee Lamb or one of these other guys who's kind of stepped up a little bit more? Maybe I know he's still kind of like newer to the stat, but Nico Collins has had a really good season so far.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a consideration for other names that are out there other than
Absolutely. Look, I'm not. That's why I wasn't so definitive. I said the argument could be made that he is one of, if not the top receiver in football.
Yeah.
And that's because it's not such an easy question. I mean, you're talking about guys that can go up and get it. He's not one of those guys. He doesn't have the height. You're talking about guys that are excellent over-the-top route runners and have speed that can't be matched. Absolutely. That's him. He's got great hands. All the best receivers do. Is he catching everything that gets in his direction? Pretty much as Justin Jefferson. Maybe he's not making the same contested catches, but they're not the same receiver. So it's kind of hard to compare their styles of play.
Right.
I mean, they both can catch a long ball. If you told me that one of them caught an 80-yard touchdown, I'm not like, no way. Like, yeah, obviously. It's the way they are. It's who they are. It's what they do.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah. I mean, you could make the argument either way, and I wouldn't disagree with you.
Right. No, I think that's fair. I mean, it's funny that we're in this year where we have receivers that a couple of years ago we were talking about Tyreek Hill being an MVP candidate, and obviously this year because of the injury to Tua, he's kind of taken a back seat in a way, but he's still as explosive a player as you expect him to be, and so I agree with you. That's why there's still that kind of question marks there. We have a lot to discuss, though, with the AFC East because, Tyreek Hill plays in the AFC East for the Miami Dolphins, and a couple of teams that are in that division loaded up with wide receivers. It's funny. The trade deadline is November 5th, so teams usually wait until the very end to do that, but once one domino falls, they all start to fall. As mentioned, you and I are both Jets fans, and so this has been a really weird week, I would say. For us as Jets fans, obviously, the last maybe 10 days. Robert Saleh gets fired. Nathaniel Hackett gets demoted. So it's Jeff Ulbrich and Todd Downing who are calling the plays, who are taking care of all of that. The Jets could have and probably should have won Monday night against Buffalo. Were it not for 2 missed field goals and I guess Mike Williams' fault, if you believe Aaron Rodgers, what he said. It's Williams' fault for not running the correct route. And then this happens. The Jets swing a move that was, let's be honest, a long time coming, I would say. Like, it has been rumored about for quite a while that Aaron Rodgers wanted to bring Davante Adams to New York to be his number one target. Not anything against Garrett Wilson or Alan Lazard, and we'll get into that a little bit later on because it does push some of those guys down the line a little bit. But the news that came out, Davante Adams from Las Vegas traded to the Jets it's a conditional 3rd-round pick. The conditions are he has to get All-Pro or play in the AFC title game or the Super Bowl, and then the third becomes a 2nd-rounder, I believe.
Yes.
And I think that was it. There wasn't really anything else that happened with that one. So going into this, the talking points about Davante Adams were the hamstring, the unhappiness in Vegas with the tumultuous quarterback situation he went to Vegas initially for Derek Carr. He went there for his old college teammate. And then
he went to Vegas also because he was a huge Raiders fan growing up.
Well, yes. Well, I mean, an Oakland Raiders fan, not really a Vegas Raiders fan, but still the silver and black
Raiders.
Yeah, it's pitter patter. But he went there for the Raiders name and for Derek Carr, his old college roommate and old college teammate. Carr leaves for New Orleans, and so he's stuck there with Jimmy Garoppolo, who didn't really do much of anything, and a young Aiden O'Connell, a 5th-round pick, who, let's be honest here, had an okay year last year for a 5th-round guy being forced into a situation that he wasn't comfortable with. Very simple. This year, the Raiders bring in Gardner Minshew because they couldn't swing a trade to go up and get a quarterback they wanted. So they have Minshew and they have O'Connell. Antonio Pierce, brand new head coach. Interim tag is off them. He's fine now. But it just wasn't working, in Vegas. And so Adams has this hamstring flare-up and decides, I'm going to sit out. I'm not going to play because, I don't want to be here right now, and I also don't want to get hurt. And that's when Rodgers and the Jets come calling, as announced via the Pat McAfee show and Aaron Rodgers' weekly spot when Davante Adams is lurking in the background of it. Adams is the Jet. So I view this, and I'm not sure how you view this initially. I view this very cautiously because the Jets are still 2-4. And the schedule might not be so kind to them. I mean, Sunday night they're playing Pittsburgh. That defense is really good. And having Adams there could be a good weapon to help. But again, what's the real story behind the hamstring? And will this change anything? That's really the hallmarks, the first hallmarks I want to say. For me, I view it very cautiously. What is the real story behind the injury? And having him, it's great, but will it change the way that Rodgers is playing? Because in the last couple of games, let's call it what it is here. Aaron Rodgers has not been himself. He has not been the guy that Jets fans expected him to be when he was brought in initially. I mean, yeah, again, you're coming off of a bad injury. You missed the entire season last year, but still, you're expected to, play a little bit better here. So, Justin, when you heard the news that Davante Adams was a Jet, I mean, like I said, I viewed it one way, but as another Jets fan, what were your takes on it initially?
I thought it was a great trade. I mean, they got what could be a top receiver in the league for a 3rd-round pick as of right now.
Yeah.
Either they get the 3rd-round pick, either they give up the 3rd-round pick, or they're good. And then it's worth a second. People are complaining that it was a gut reaction trade because they gave the Raiders everything they wanted. They got what they thought he was worth. I happen to think he's worth that. At least when this dude's on the field, he's still one of the best players in the football league. Like he's just an unbelievable talent. We don't know what the hamstring is, but I will say that the report is that he practiced in full today for the Jets. So, obviously, they passed him on his physical. Obviously, things are a little different now. Yes, it was a snap reaction to give them everything they want. Sure. They had to pay the whole contract. It's already been restructured. Realistically, maybe they'll trade Mike Williams and get his contract off the books. You telling me that they're going to trade for Davante, and then give up Mike Williams for a 6th, then you have to take his whole contract? Why not? Now, all of a sudden, Allen Lazard moves from your 2 to your 3. And then, depending on who you think is the number 1 guy there, it'd either be Garrett or Davante. It might be Davante, just because of his skill set and connection with Aaron Rodgers. Do you know that Garrett Wilson is leading the league in targets? By a lot?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
By 9 full targets?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know that Allen Lazard is the 2nd most targeted person on the Jets?
Yep.
Who else has done anything there?
Yeah.
Mike Williams, look, I know we want to sit here and blame Aaron Rodgers, and he hasn't been the Aaron Rodgers that was 2-time back-to-back MVP. We get that. But do we really think that every single interception was his fault? Every single time he throws the ball and a wide receiver doesn't realize it's coming? No. This is the guy that's got experience, that knows where everyone is supposed to be. And then we have young and, inexperienced in this system receivers that aren't in the right spots. Garrett, Wilson has not always been in the right spot.
Yep.
Mike Williams, I got news for you. He ran the wrong route 2 weeks in a row.
Yep.
He ran the wrong route in Minnesota too. People want to say that there was an issue and there was a lot of contact and maybe there was other issues, but Aaron Rodgers threw an interception because it looked like Mike Williams was supposed to cut in against Minnesota. And now we're talking about two of the top teams in the league currently, at least in terms of record. In my mind, in terms of performance as well, but in terms of record, two of the top teams that the Jets were maybe one route correctly run away from maybe tying the game at the very least.
Yeah.
That's a major difference. That's a difference between 2-4 and 4-2. Now, and with a tough team schedule. Now, there are other issues, don't get me wrong, but I think that having another receiver on your team like Davante Adams is going to clear a lot of those issues up offensively. Because let me tell you right now, teams don't respect the Jets' pass offense at this moment.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers has not been, again, stellar, but again, I think that's partially miscommunication. The line, although they have had a decent pass protection grades, has not been great.
Right.
And that's because teams are stacking the lines against them. They don't respect this pass. They're gonna double cover Garrett Wilson, and they're going to stack the box. And they're going to leave guys like Allen Lazard in single coverage who can get open and can catch the ball, but have issues with drops. I believe Allen Lazard leads the league in drops at the moment.
I think we talked about it last week that depending on the metric you're looking at, there's like 3, but
he had a great game last week. Don't get me wrong. It's part of the reason that they were kept in that game. And he's been much better this year than he was last year.
Yeah.
But having another receiver like this now frees up Garrett Wilson. Now spreads out the offense, the defense, and all of a sudden you can't stack the box the same way.
Right.
Now all of a sudden Breece Hall is freed up, and the run game gets started, and then the offensive line is not being pressured as much, and they're still going to come after him. You have to prove all this, but you take 2 straight drives to the house to start a game. Teams are going to start sitting back.
Right.
Now, again, this is still the Jets. There's still lots of issues. Their run defense has been poor. We're hoping C.J. Mosley comes back soon. We're hoping the secondary gets healed up soon. DJ Reed is maybe in line to miss another game, which is gut-wrenching. Chuck Clark was put on IR, which is gut-wrenching. But if we can get guys in and we could start getting the defense back to where it was, stopping some of these gut-wrenching runs, because that's what they are. That's the way to describe this defense. The pass pro has been okay. There's been lapses at times, but they have not been able to cover both the run and the pass this year.
Right.
So obviously that's still an issue. And to that point, the defense has kept them in games. It's not like the defense is playing poorly.
Yeah.
It's just not ideal.
No.
And it could be a lot better.
Yeah.
But to make one move and in theory fix a lot of the offensive issues that might be occurring. And I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. I'm not going to say it's going to happen indefinitely. And just because they traded Davante Adams, they're a Super Bowl contender. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is things are freed up a little bit. And now you don't have to rely on a third receiver like a Mike Williams who hasn't been working out for you and hasn't understood where he's supposed to be in relation to where Aaron Rodgers wants to play.
Right.
Now all of a sudden you have a guy who's caught multiple 1,000-yard seasons and multiple 10-touchdown seasons, and all of a sudden you can split it 3 wide and have 2 running backs in the backfield, and teams go, where do we go with this? What are we doing?
Yeah.
That's worth a 3rd-round pick in my mind. That's worth a 2nd-round pick if it works out.
Yeah. I mean, the detractors to it will say, like, a point that you brought up is you're going to take Davante's entire contract up for this year, which is $19 million on the books.
They already restructured.
Yeah,
it's not the case. It's an $11 million cap hit beforehand. They've restructured.
Yep.
And he's got some incentives.
Yeah.
But it's also all going to change when they sign him to a long-term deal, which they're discussing at the moment.
Yeah.
So and they had the cap space. So who cares?
Yeah. So so then the next question there would be, if you're a Garrett Wilson fan, which I'm sure a lot of us are, does this stunt his growth any further? Like going into this trade option, he had really come on and really worked on a better like connection with Aaron Rodgers, I would say, as the number one wide receiver, because he was the number one. He was acting as the number one receiver in the Jets system. And now he'll probably get pushed down to the number two. Do you think that will change anything? Do you think that will change?
I'm not so sure that he becomes the number two. I mean, no offense to Devontae, but this has been the guy here.
Yeah.
This has been the guy for and with Aaron Rodgers the last 2 years. Not that Aaron Rodgers played last year, but
yeah,
this is the future. And as good as Devontae is, he's 31 years old.
Yeah.
There's not much of a shelf life left for receivers in most cases. Maybe we're in a new age and we'll see some of these guys last a little longer, but most of these guys after 30 take a major decline. So,
yeah,
Garrett, I think, can only learn. I don't think that, I mean, look, even if he takes targets away,
yeah,
the amount of targets he was getting might be a detriment at this point.
Yeah.
He's getting beat up. I know they say he dropped 2 touchdowns, but did you see the hits he took on those touchdowns?
I did, yeah.
Who else is there to take these hits? I mean, occasionally Lazard is getting open, but I don't think Lazard has an end zone target to this point, does he?
I don't believe so. No, I think you're
they are forcing the issue with Garrett Wilson, and now they don't have to anymore.
No, they don't. You're right. Absolutely right about that. I think you're right in that it's a matter of, he was the main guy because let's call it what it is here. Well, Mike Williams wasn't doing a good job, and they brought him in to be that. Lazard was good,
yeah,
but Williams wasn't doing what they expected him to do.
And I think given more time, I think he could have, but
and further from that, the tight ends weren't playing up to their potential. I mean, I know they got rid of Uzama, and I know that Conklin is kind of hit or miss, but Conklin and Rucker were supposed to be larger pieces in the passing game. I mean, I know Rodgers' history of tight ends, but they weren't performing as well as you would expect them to be. And then you're right, when the passing game's not working out, guys like Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, while they're great running backs, if you're running the ball constantly and that's all you're expecting, they're not going to average that much on the ground. So, yeah, I feel like that's so. This trade could work. This could be a good thing for the Jets. Not so much for Tyreek Hill, because again, now you got another guy in your division to contend with. And just when we thought it was over, well, Amari Cooper, as we were talking about last week, the Browns actually traded him to Buffalo. So, I mean, he moves like from one side of Lake Erie to the other, so it's not really that far for him. It's like maybe a 90-minute, 2-hour drive at best. This is an interesting one. We had discussed the fact that the Bills, after losing Stephon Diggs, they had done well with Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel, and Knox and Kincaid had really helped them out. But this gives the Bills a scary, dangerous weapon, and on a team that is really full of them. That's almost like, again, to your point, I think you brought this up when we were talking about the AFC East in our preseason shows. This is a team that the moment that you think that they're out, the moment you think that they're not going to do anything, they make a move like this and didn't give up much in return. I think it was a couple picks. They got a pick as well for it. And it gets Amari Cooper into a great situation in Buffalo with a quarterback who can throw the ball properly. Look at you, Deshaun Watson. And also puts, I think, the Bills firmly in the spot of division championship contenders. They were doing really well up until this point, but adding a receiver like Amari Cooper into this offense, it's basically status quo for Josh Allen. It gives him again a top 5 target again.
Yeah, it was a great move. It was a great move all around. The compensation, they're paying him almost nothing. The Browns took almost the whole contract. They basically traded a 3rd and a 6th for Amari Cooper and a 7th, and they hit the piece they were missing.
Yeah,
that was the piece that they needed for this offense to be really scary this year. If he can get on the same page with Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper does everything well. He's one of those receivers that just does everything well.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I mean, it hurt. It was a gut punch.
Yeah.
For sure, because I felt like the Jets got better, and the Bills were like, yeah, but not that much better. You know what I mean?
You're still 2-4.
Yeah. And they fixed what was wrong with that offense last year. I mean, Josh Allen said it. He's thrown some interceptions. They just haven't caught it yet. And that's fair. He's gotten lucky so far this year. And that's not to take anything away from him. He's played excellent. He's an excellent player, and he is on a great run this year.
Yeah.
But they really got that run game going, even without James Cook. They really got that run game going. Mm-hmm. And that's what was missing for years in Buffalo. Yeah. Now that they got the run game going, all of a sudden they figured out how to target everyone because he's been spreading the ball around.
Yeah.
The tight ends are getting involved now. That's something that they've missed. They've gotten the run game going so well that they can use tight ends to branch out.
Yep.
Mox caught a touchdown the other day. Kincaid's caught a touchdown.
Yep.
Deion Coleman's caught a touchdown. Yep. I think everyone there except for Valdez Scantling and Curtis Samuel have caught touchdowns.
Yeah.
And now you have a true number one receiver. One that you were hoping that Curtis Samuel or Keon Coleman could develop into.
Yep.
This is going to be a scary offense if they can get on the same page.
Yeah.
The defense, not terrible. It's pretty upper middle of the pack, I would say.
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
I agree with that.
They're not great with everything. But this is a team that made a real gut punch to the rest of the league.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say the defense doesn't need to be that good. They just have to be good. Because if you go through up until, I would say, a month from now, when they play the Chiefs and the Niners back-to-back, before that, their 4 games are home for the Titans this week, which, I mean, you added Amari Cooper, and that offense could score 90, I think, against the Titans, because the Titans' defense is not great. At Seattle, which could be a challenge, but again, the Seahawks haven't been, their usual dominant self on either side of the ball. And then home for the Dolphins is Tua back. I don't necessarily know if he's back by that game. And then at Indy. So this could be a team that conceivably going into that Kansas City game could be 8-2 because the offense just got better. And the defense, like I said, don't have to be good, but, you hold teams to 24 points. I get it. If you're playing fantasy, you don't want to start the Bills on defense, but, you can still win games 30, 35, 24, 42, 24 and still call it a win. And, and you're right. It is a gut punch for the Jets fans because you had that one fleeting hope that, okay, we got a good receiver coming in here and the Bills do this. It's like what else could possibly go wrong? Cam Akers? Who cares? I mean,
I thought that was a great trade.
No, it was a phenomenal trade for them. I mean, so I feel like Cam Akers is just he's a guy who was so unfortunate, right? Because he had that really good run with the Rams, and then he got hurt and he was never able to recover. And now I feel like he's bounced around from team to team to team, and he's gotten fortunate that there have been times where the running backs ahead of him have gotten hurt. Like in Houston, Mixon and Dameon Pierce both got hurt, and he was kind of able to start, but then he got passed up by Dare Ogunbowale. And now... I
don't think that's true. I think he got... I think he was more of the third down and short yardage back. Yeah. And then they happened to be real successful on those short yardage things.
Yeah.
But I think he's excellent for Houston in filling in. And he's going to be really good filling in for Aaron Jones while he's out for a couple weeks.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that so he's now in Minnesota, which helps them out because, like I said, Jones is out for a couple weeks, and they didn't really have a good spell back up there for him. So in that system with Akers and Darnold and Jefferson and those guys, again, Minnesota's been the surprise, and we talked about it last week that they needed to add some pieces. I don't know if this is necessarily the piece that they were thinking about adding, but again, situations call for you to make some moves, and Aaron Jones being out, that's the situation that you needed to get a competent running back in there, and Cam Akers is competent enough. Now, again, I don't think the Vikings are done. I think they're going to add some more pieces on defense, but I think, like you said, this was a good trade, and I don't remember the details on it. Do you remember what Houston got for it? Must have been like compensatory, like small picks, right? It wasn't even.
I don't even know if I saw it, to be honest.
Yeah. All right. Cash considerations or whatever. Who cares? Well, we're gonna move on from that to week 6. A lot of things happened in week 6. A lot of things, a lot of games went down, a lot of results went down. I think, the sides of the coin you can talk about with one game in particular. Let's talk about the Lions-Cowboys game because you mentioned it.
We did, I think. We got everything.
Well, that's the only thing is Aiden Hutchinson got hurt. So the question then becomes, my would you rather, if I had done a would you rather for you this week, would have been, if you're the Lions, do you want Max Crosby or Hassan Reddick to fill in for Aiden Hutchinson?
Max Crosby 100 times over.
Obviously you do.
Yeah.
Obviously you do.
Listen, and don't get me wrong, you were here. I sang the praises of this trade for Hassan Reddick when it happened. Yeah. I think that he can be a game changer and a difference maker. I just didn't realize he's absolutely nuts and decided he'd rather spend $11 million than show up and earn 20, I guess, eventually. I mean, you have to think that the way that this Jets defense is played and the way that they've had sack production, that a guy like Hassan Reddick on this team, in addition to the guys that they already have, would have had 5, 6, 7, 8 sacks already.
Mm-hmm.
Will McDonald had 5 sacks in the first 3 games.
Yeah.
Will McDonald didn't play last year.
Right.
So, and like, that's not to say anything against Will McDonald. I love the guy. I mean, I hope he gets 5 more. I hope he gets 5 more this week. But we don't have to get into that. But if I'm taking anyone, I'm taking Max Crosby.
Yeah, no, I think that's an agreement
there. A perennial pro from what we could see. He's kind of a jerk sometimes to people, but maybe on the field. Yeah. But people on his team probably love him. You know what I mean?
I think my only consideration would be how much would you have to give up for Crosby versus Reddick? Because he clearly wants out.
I got news for you. You probably have to give up a pretty decent amount if you're getting Reddick too.
Yeah,
because
that's fair.
I mean, if I'm the Jets, I'm not giving him up for nothing. Yeah, I at least need to get up what I sank into him.
Yeah,
or he's never playing again.
No, of course not.
He can show up for me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get what I traded for him.
Yep.
So I don't take a loss on it.
Yep.
Or let him never play again.
Do you think the Raiders?
Like I have.
That's true. Do you think the Raiders would ask for like a 1 for Crosby in a trade, or would it be a 2? Do you think?
I think it would be a 2. I think he's worth a 1.
Yeah.
I think he's probably worth a little bit more than a 1. How old is he?
I
know he's not the youngest guy.
Yeah, he's on the younger. I think he's on the younger side.
Is he?
But he's definitely. He was born in 97, so he's got to be. What does that make?
27. Oh yeah, so he's pretty young still.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say you could give up a first for him. If I'm the Lions, it's worth the first.
I was saying, what is the first of the Lions, right? I mean, they're be like 26, 27 at this point,
And I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, Hutchinson's going to come back eventually.
Oh, of course he is.
So,
of course he is.
So now you're going to have Hutchinson and Crosby?
Yeah.
In their 20s?
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't work out this year? For a first-round pick?
Still got him. If that's the move you make, why not?
Worth a shot.
Why not? I mean, I feel like you do have to make some kind of move to replace, at least for now, because you don't know. You know he's going to come back. You know that he's going to try and come back this season, but it's probably not likely.
I don't know if he comes back this season.
He's going to try. Let's be honest.
He's going
to try. How about not coming back this season? How about the Jaguars?
I'm sorry, what about the Jaguars?
How about not coming back this season? Look, I picked that game at 4 last week, and you rightfully were like outraged. I forgot that the Jaguars' pass defense was that atrocious. Because Cole Kmet, who, by the way, if I had a rant podium, can we stop talking about Cole Kmet being the backup long snapper and making a big deal out of it? Rich Eisen, like what are we doing? Like, are we that devoid of stories we have to hit on that over and over again, it's ridiculous. But
I just think that team quit. That team quit last week.
oh, they did. They absolutely did.
If there was one thing that was wrong last week is that we said, if I'm the Jaguars, I'm not selling.
Yeah.
That's a lost locker room.
Yeah. I guess I didn't think that it was that lost because, other than the Bills game, other than that game, which was a disaster all around, lost the Dolphins by 3, the Browns by 5, the Texans by 4. So they were in games. So it didn't seem like they were that bad, unless they were just that smoke screen. And apparently there was a smoke screen. So,
right. The Dolphins one is rough. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It was a close game against a good team. They played real close. They got unlucky.
Yeah.
That Browns game is inexcusable.
I agree with you.
That's not a good football team.
I agree.
You want to tell me you lost to the Bills and the Texans? I mean, you never want to get smoked like you did in the Bills game. It was 47-10, and it wasn't that close.
Yeah, right.
But
like the Colts,
and then you come back and you beat the Colts, and all of a sudden, all right, we're going to start to right the ship. I know we're a little slow. And then you get blown out by a team like the Bears. And I know the Bears have a winning record this year. I know the Bears aren't terrible. The Bears are not blowing out a good team. Yeah,
the Bears should not be blowing out any team this season.
The Bears have had an easy schedule.
Yeah, I'd say so.
They beat the Titans.
Yep.
They beat the Rams.
Yep.
They beat the Panthers.
Yep.
They beat the Jaguars.
Yep.
They lost to the Colts.
Yeah, they did.
And they lost to the Texans. Now, don't get me wrong. They're in these games because the defense has been excellent.
Yeah.
And Caleb has gotten better in every game.
He has.
For sure.
He has.
But he's even still, I wouldn't say he's lighting the world on fire.
No, he's not.
He had 4 passing touchdowns last game, but guys were running free.
Yeah.
That was one of the worst football performances I've ever seen. To the point where when in the group chat for the fans out there, we were debating whether or not as Jet fans, we want the Jaguars to win or the Patriots to win. Because if the Patriots win, I don't think Doug Peterson is flying home with the team.
Jeez. No, I don't think any of these guys are going to fly home if they don't win this week against the Patriots.
So, there are some issues there for sure.
Yeah.
And it might be time for people to go out and say, hey, if we have an older piece that might not be here in 1, 2, 3 years.
Yep.
He ain't going to be here next week.
Exactly.
Not if we can get something for him.
Exactly. No, I agree with you on that end. DJ Moore, 4 catches, 20 yards. Roman Jones had 2 catches, 40 yards. It was the Cole Kmet and Keenan Allen show. 4 touchdowns combined in that game. But you want to talk about the team that's in a little bit of flux right now. I mean, the Jaguars, yeah, they lost.
You going to talk about my fantasy team?
No, well,
top 5 in points, but still 1-5. What is happening?
Listen. Okay. My team, I lost by 8 points, and that's because Marvin Harrison Jr. was concussed. So, But how do you look for that? No, I'm talking about the Eagles. Like, they won, but did they actually win that game against the Browns? Or because all the outside noise going on with the Eagles is just a lot to take in right now. So
yes, and let's call it what it is the Browns have been in every game, almost every game they've played this year, and the reason for that is because that defense is still nasty.
Yeah.
Absolutely nasty. The only 2 games that they really weren't in were the Commanders game where they got blown out and the Cowboys game where they got blown out.
Right.
They won that Jaguars game. They lost by 7 to the Giants. They lost by 4 to the Raiders.
Yep.
And they lost by 4 to the Eagles.
Yep.
That defense is nasty.
Yep.
It was to the point where I thought I might win my elimination pool because the other guy took the Eagles. And it was close.
Yeah, it was.
There is something a little off with that Eagles offense right now.
Yeah.
I think teams figured out they can stack the box and they have to try and make Jalen Hurts beat them.
Yep.
But A.J. Brown came back last week. He was pivotal in this game.
Yep.
They're hoping that Dallas Goedert can, get a little healthier. I know he's been banged up. He's perennially dealing with injuries.
Yep.
They are having issues with, I think Devontae Smith had missed a couple games as well.
Yeah.
So, and like we said, I don't think the offensive line is the same without Jason Kelce.
No.
So I think that there's a lot to like, but there's a lot to be worried about.
Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming that this Giants game probably isn't going to be very close.
I mean, well, so here's the question that I have then. Do you look at Saquon's line from the Browns game where he had 18 carries for only 47 yards as an aberration because of how good the Browns defense is at stopping run?
Well, here's the thing. I think that the Giants are built pretty similarly in terms of, having a powerhouse defensive line.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to figure out that. But I think that if you get Saquon maybe a little bit farther out and maybe have him start catching some balls underneath and screen passes and find other ways to get him the ball and maybe make it so he doesn't get hit behind the line as much, because that was his issue with the Giants. That's how he gets hurt. It's when he takes all these hits behind the line.
Yep.
So if they can figure out how to get Saquon more involved and keep the other pieces that they have involved active, his offense will start to hum. I don't think that there's that much of a change, but it hurts not having a future Hall of Famer anchoring that offensive line in the middle.
It's true.
It's not so easy to replace.
Yeah. We can take the shot. Jurgens is not Kelce. We can take the shot.
Look, he's still young.
Yeah, of course.
He can develop, but he's not. I can't sit here and say I expect him to be a day one to be the next Jason Kelce.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you on that end. 6 weeks in to the season, and the Steelers are still with a winning record. How about that? But they're changing quarterbacks for this week. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
What? Do you think that the offense will hum better with Russell Wilson, or do you think this is kind of an overreach? Like, what do you make of the decision to switch from Justin Fields to Russell Wilson when you're 4-2? I mean, I know the Steelers' defense is nasty. We've talked about them ad nauseum, but the offense has them winning games, right? So,
let me ask you this: what is a good quarterback statistically? And I know that there's more than just statistics. There's on the field, there's clutch play, there's a lot of different things. But statistically, if you want to be in games, what are you looking for here?
I see. I don't know where the Steelers' mindset is or what answer you're looking for, but my thing would be completion percentage and a good touchdown to interception ratio or a low interception ratio. So I would look at those two, because that means to me you're taking care of the ball, you're finding receivers at a good clip, and you're moving the ball down the field. Those are the two things that I would think about. But
all right, so let's combine the important stats here.
Yeah.
And say that Justin Fields is 66% completion percentage.
Yep.
Not terrible.
Yep.
He's got 1,300 total yards, including his rushing yards. He's got 10 touchdowns, including his rushing touchdowns.
Yep.
He's got an interception.
Yep.
And 4 fumbles.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
So, I mean, every 2 touchdowns, he's got a turnover.
Yep.
He's middle of the pack in yards.
Yep.
He's middle of the pack in completion percentage. Maybe a little worse. Yeah.
Yep.
He's 16th in completion percentage.
Okay.
In passing yards, he's 22nd.
Yep.
In passing touchdowns, he's 25th.
Yep.
There's just, I think, a lot to be desired still. I think that if you put in Russ at 4-2, and Russ doesn't play well for 2 straight games, it doesn't hurt to go back to Justin Fields and say we made a mistake.
Okay.
but they play the Jets and the Giants. In theory, these should be good ramp-up games.
Yeah.
And then you're going to see what he has when the bulk of the schedule really hits you, because then they play the Commanders, the Ravens, the Browns, the Bengals, the Browns. And I know that we just talked about how terrible the Browns are. I don't care how terrible the Browns are. When it comes to AFC North divisional games, no team is bad.
Right.
All right? And I'm not even going to talk about the Eagles and the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Bengals, who they play after that.
Right.
Their schedule is about to get a whole lot tougher.
Yeah.
If there was a time to put Russell Wilson in to see what you got, because this is the reason you traded for him or signed him or whatever you did to acquire him, and he was the guy that won your starting job, this is your only shot.
Yeah.
This is it. So it's not like they were winning in spite of Justin Fields, but it's not like they were winning because of Justin Fields either. He did just enough for them to win. He's played very well. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But his QBR is also a 53.
Yep.
And he's just, there's things left to be desired in his play at the moment that, yeah, I don't mind them making this move.
I guess my only consideration would be, like you said, you give him these 2 games, and let's say it doesn't work out, and Pittsburgh falls from 4-2 to 4-4.
All right, then you have a fresh Justin Fields going into the what game was it?
The Commanders game.
Yeah,
I mean they have long bye. My question though would be, do you foresee a scenario if that happens where the Steelers offense would kind of lose a step or two and then have to change back and wouldn't be able to get back in rhythm? Because it seems like it seems like the defense is doing a lot, which I think they are. And obviously Chris Boswell, we love kickers here. You know, he's doing great. But it feels to me almost in a case where, you know, the offense could take a few steps back and not recover fully.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, listen, there's something to be said for that. But if you think you could be better, why aren't you trying to be the best that you can be? I don't disagree with anything you're saying.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to turn around and say, listen, Justin Fields went 4-2, we're winning games. He's not playing badly. He's playing pretty well.
Yeah.
I can only see him getting better. I'm not making that move because he's 26 and Russell Wilson's 35.
Right.
I'm not arguing the other way.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is this is the guy that won the starting job.
Right.
This is the guy that you practiced all offseason for him to be your starter.
Yeah.
This is the guy you said was better. Yep. Justin Fields was more of a project at all times. And we think he can be that guy in the future, but we don't think he's ready yet. Even if he's played well these 4 games, this was a great experience for him, but we're going to let him sit now and watch a little bit more. And this is the guy that we think can take us where we've been trying to go the last few years, and that means win a playoff game for the first time in however many years. If you think this is the guy, then this is the guy. You got to make this move now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the only consideration that I would have. You know, they have, like I said, 2 winnable games in the next 2 weeks.
I trust Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I mean,
he's
a friend of the show for a reason, so I trust him with that end too. And to that end, we're going to wrap things up here by letting you know about the pick challenge, obviously, because, you know, we already made our picks going into this week. Some very light little fango doing here. So
when one's not here, we got to make it fair. Everyone always says, like, oh, why don't we stage him? No.
Yeah.
No.
We did go into this week with Jerg, of course, the man who's not here, leading the picks with 40. Justin, you actually had a decent week last week. Both of you guys, actually all 3 of us, could have had perfect weeks were not for one game. Jerg picked the Jets last week and he lost. You had Denver last week and lost that one. Tough one.
Kicking ass now.
Yeah. And I had Jacksonville, and that didn't go very well for me. So obviously, there we go. Yes,
it wasn't worth it.
I know.
I tried to help.
I thought it was going to be different. You know, I thought the Jags were better.
That we know.
Yeah. Well, right. Well, that's a fact. So going into this week, then The games, obviously, there's a game going on tonight, and we debated and we gave that one to the mascot, who sucks at everything, typical. Did pick Denver, and they're winning 13-3 in this game, so that'll probably be a win there. Jurg at 4 went for the Lions in an upset over the Vikings. It's a small upset. It's a 1.5 point favorite for Minnesota, which I think is interesting. I think tell me if I'm wrong about this. If Aiden Hutchinson wasn't hurt for this game, Detroit might be favored in this game, I would say.
In Minnesota?
It's in Minnesota. Or it would be a closer, it might be an even game than an upset.
I would think maybe it's a 0.5.
Yeah.
For the Vikings still. I mean, let's face it. The Vikings are still 5-0 coming off a bye.
Yep.
At home.
Yep.
That bodes pretty well for them.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. I agree with that. You had, I think this is the biggest spread, and it just got better because of Amari Cooper. Buffalo over Tennessee as your 4-pointer. It's a 9-point favorite pick. And I mean, I think you can cover that pretty easily. I think there'll be a lot of bets on Buffalo in this game because it's in Buffalo, new offense, they're humming, and Tennessee's just not very good. Let's call it what it is here.
Well, it's funny because the one thing that they were pretty good at, I thought, was pass defense. I think that's changed in the last couple of weeks. They just released their very highly coveted safety, Jamal Adams, today, as per his own request.
Yep.
So he's going to be on a 4th team now.
Where do you think he goes? Does it even matter?
I don't know what goes on in that dude's head.
Yeah. You know who I feel bad for on Marcus May, because
he's playing well for the Saints.
He's playing very well for the Saints, but he had to share the backfield with this guy.
Well, listen. As soon as he left, he was a headache for the. As soon as Adams left, Mayo was all of a sudden a headache for the Jets too.
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, yeah. Well, the lesser migraine of the two, I guess.
Yeah.
I had Washington as my 4-pointer over Carolina. Again, look, Jaden Daniels has been really good, and I think the Panthers are. I don't want to say regretting going to Andy Dalton, but he did not look good last week, and so that offense. Deontay Johnson's a trade candidate now for them, which is just. Sell the farm at that point.
Deontay Johnson.
Or Deontay Johnson.
He chose that offense. No, he didn't. He got traded.
Yes. Well, I mean, he could have sat out, but what's the point of that, right? Jurg's upset at 3-point also was a Monday night game. Cardinals over the Chargers, which is an interesting one because the Chargers seem like they're heading in the right direction. The Cardinals, we'll see if Harrison's able to play. I doubt it after a concussion, but you never know. So that offense could be in trouble there. You went Kansas City over San Francisco, a nice little Super Bowl rematch in Santa Clara as your 3-pointer. Nice little 2-point upset there. So the question becomes, do the Chiefs win this game on their own, or do the refs help them?
I think that it's fair if you think that the refs are going to help them, they might. But I also think that there's something just a little off with San Francisco.
I agree with that.
That they have not been able to figure out. And it could be a lot of the injuries. It could be that they're banged up. But if you're going to be the team that makes mistakes and allows teams to come back, a la the week before losing to the Cardinals,
you're
not going to win against the Chiefs. You're just not.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I guess we'll see if maybe they are in the market for a receiver too at some point because, I think they're looking to add at any point, obviously.
I think that if I am the Chiefs, I am livid that I did not offer a 2nd-round pick for Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny watching him go to Buffalo. It's like that's the reason why Kansas City has Worthy, right? Because of that trade and the draft. Yeah. So now looking at that, it's a problem there. My 3-pointer, I went upset as well. Houston over Green Bay. It's in Lambeau, so I get it, the home field cooking. But Houston being an underdog here is an interesting thing on the money line there. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that Houston's an underdog in this one?
I think that people are a little disappointed in what they thought Houston was going to be. They had a lot of hype going in the season. I know that they're 5-1 currently, but I think that offense has not hummed the way that they thought it would. Nico Collins is a game-time decision. I think that he's probably going to be out. Stephon Diggs has worked out for them, but the running backs have been injured. And let me tell you, there's a lot more going on in Lambeau Field than just Lambeau Leaps right now. That defense is nasty.
Yeah.
That defense is really, really good. And they have what it takes to slow down just about any offense in the league. And don't get me wrong, they have their lapses, they have their moments, especially if the offense is turning over the ball, because we've seen them fall behind early in games, especially in that Minnesota game where they came screaming back.
Mm-hmm.
But let's face it, they are an excellent, excellent defense, and they have what it takes to beat any team at any given time. And you're telling me they're going to play in a cold Lambeau Field? I might take them, especially with a warm weather team coming up north.
Yeah. And it's funnily enough, if Minnesota holds off Detroit and Green Bay does win this game, then by virtue of records, the Packers will be ahead of the Lions. The Vikings and Packers will be ahead of the Lions, so Detroit will be third. And actually, Chicago will be tied with Detroit this week if the Lions don't win, because they'll be 4-2. So that division is interesting to say the least. There, yeah. Jared wants Cincinnati over Cleveland at 2. I think we've talked about Cleveland enough. The Bengals had a nice win last week, but I mean, the Browns' offense is non-existent, especially now with Amari Cooper gone. Who is their top receiver now? I don't even know.
We should have done a quick trivia question. Do you know who the leading touchdown scorer on the Browns is currently?
As someone on defense, a pick six, maybe. I don't know.
It is someone on defense. Believe it or not.
I believe that. I don't know the name off the top of my head though. Let's see. Do you have it?
It is the safety. Where is his name?
Interesting.
I can't find it. One of their safeties has 2 touchdowns. He's the only one that's scored multiple touchdowns.
Jeez, it's like you're like, why at this point? Oh, it's McLeod, right? The guy who returned the field goal.
Yes.
Field goal with it. Yeah, great. Great. He is more than Jerry Jeudy. Excellent. So the Browns offense can't get anything going. The Bengals offense looked okay. Chase Brown was pretty good last week. So we'll see. You go with Baltimore at your 2-pointer here. Ravens had a nice win against the Commanders last week. And this week they are up against the Bucs on Monday Night Football. Battle of 2 4-2 teams. Why the Ravens over the Bucs in your mind?
I like the Bucs. Don't get me wrong, but it's hard to slow down a team that's churning the way that they are.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to sit here and say that the Bucs don't have the pieces to be a defensive, powerhouse, but I mean, who really is going to slow down Derrick Henry?
Yeah.
On that team.
Yeah.
Come on. That offense is humming. I know that I think the Bucs are on the upper half of teams, but I mean, Baltimore is just churning out offensive yards. And when this team can run the ball, that defense plays better. I don't understand it. I don't necessarily know how it works.
Yeah.
But they currently lead the league in yards per game. And as much as I like what the Bucs are doing, I don't think they're doing enough to beat a team like Baltimore, especially if you're going to make mistakes like Baker did last week.
I will say too that we've hit the last 2 weeks with picking Baltimore to win games. You in week 5 and myself in week 6. So picking the Ravens hasn't strayed us down the wrong pathway at this point. So that's pretty good there. Yeah. I didn't really get a reaction from you that I think I was expecting for my 2-pointer because I picked the Giants over the Eagles. But I mean,
I was at work when this happened, so I didn't really get to.
Yeah, that's true.
Happening.
That's true.
Listen, like I said, I would not be surprised if this was a closer game. I think that Giants defense matches up pretty much the same way that Browns defense does. Yeah. I don't think they're as good in the secondary, but they are nasty up front.
Yep.
They might not have a Myles Garrett, but they can get after an offensive line just as well as any other team in the league. They are well coached on defense, and they have a better offense. They have a better run game right now than the Browns. They have a better passing game than the Browns. And the Eagles were real close to not escaping Cleveland with a win. Now they got to go into a rowdy New York.
Yep.
I'm not sitting here saying that I think the Giants are going to win, but I'm sitting here saying that if they did, I'm not super surprised. Yeah. I told you this defense was going to be nasty coming into the league and that this team would be in more games than people are going to give them credit for. This is exactly what they were trying to build.
Yep.
All they need is this offense to start clicking. And guess what? After 2 straight wins, They get Neighbors back this week.
That's right. That's right. Neighbors is back. I don't think Singletary's back, but Tyrone Tracy has.
I don't think. But they don't need him. Tracy's been excellent.
Tracy's been really, really good for them. Just the question of Daniel Jones. Got to hope that he can actually play well enough. But
how many turnovers has he had the last couple weeks?
I don't know a specific number, but I know that the killer in the Sunday night game against the Bengals, that pass he shouldn't have thrown when he was hit in the back and he just threw a lollipop that Pratt picked off.
Mm-hmm.
That was rough. Like, they were driving. They were in the 20. They were in the red zone. So
I said they won 2 games in a row. That is not correct.
Not correct. But
they have only won 2 games total.
Yeah.
But they have been in close games, and they have won a couple of good games.
Yes.
And listen, they've pretty much been in every game outside of that Vikings game. Right. You could have easily said that they would have beaten the Commanders if that kicker didn't get hurt.
Yep.
That's a major thing.
Yep.
That's I think they passed on 2 field goals and 3 extra points.
Yes.
That's all. That's 9 points.
Yep.
That they lost.
Yeah.
They were very much in that Cowboys game.
Mm-hmm. And
they were very much in that Bengals game.
Yeah.
So
again, like you say, 2-4 to 4-2.
Mm-hmm. You tell me to win the next 2, and all of a sudden they're 4-4.
Yeah.
Going to a Washington game at home.
Yeah.
And then they play the Panthers after that. This team could easily be 5-5, 6-4.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if you see a decent Giants team. I'm not thinking they're going to go to the playoffs. I'm not thinking they're going to win a playoff game like they did. All I'm saying is they are better than they were last year.
Oh, yeah. Much better. Much better. 1-pointers, Jurg went Jacksonville in the Sunday morning game. I don't know. I really don't know why. I mean, as a guy who got spurned and burned by the Jaguars, like, I can see Drake May throwing for 300 yards in this game.
He looked good last week.
He looked real good. He looked real good for the Patriots. And I know I hated it too, but you know what I did? I picked up Pop Douglas on fantasy because, I mean, the way that Caleb Williams just tore up that Jaguar secondary, why not? Why not?
Well, this is going to be a real test of head coach Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
Because if this team quits on him this week,
yeah,
and they get wrecked by a team like the Patriots, who, don't get me wrong, I understand that they've been blown out quite a bit.
Yeah.
They gave a team that had one of the top offenses and Cincinnati a run for their money week 1.
Yeah.
They played a close game against Seattle week 2.
Yeah.
Sure, they got blown out weeks 3 and 4 against the Jets and the 49ers. They got blown out against the Texans.
Yep.
But this defense has pieces.
Yeah.
They do. They have pieces.
Yeah.
And if the offense can get going, they really don't have anything to lose. If I'm Drake May, there's literally no pressure here.
Yeah, there's none. I mean, again, Brissett started most of the season. May came on. He played pretty well last week. I mean, again, Texans offense just outclassed them. But, there's a lot of positive.
He played well in garbage time. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. But again, there's a lot of positive signs, I think.
And I think it got better as he went along.
Yeah.
Also, his second half was way better than his first. Did he throw both those interceptions in the first half?
I believe he did. Yeah, I believe they were both for first half.
And then all of a sudden he threw for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns in the second half?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
He looked like he got his legs under him and he knew what he was doing and where he was going.
Yeah. So, and again, that's what you want from the 3rd overall pick in the draft, right? So that works out there. So your 1-pointer, you went the Battle of the Birds. You went Falcons over the Seahawks.
Dirty Birds.
Dirty Birds. Falcons got a win last week. This is the team that seems to be trending in a good direction. 4-2 right now. Tie with Tampa. They have the tiebreaker over the Bucs, I believe, or they haven't played yet.
I think they did. I think they won head-to-head, didn't they?
Yeah, they did win the head-to-head. You're right. So that's a big one there. And again, Seahawks are going in the wrong direction, starting 3-0, and now they're lost their last 3. So this is a big one for the Falcons if they can get it.
Yeah, look, this is, I think, more of the direction we thought they were going to be last year. I mean, obviously, Geno Smith came out of nowhere to be a top guy, or maybe 2 years ago. Is this Geno's third year as the quarterback there?
It's third year, yeah, third year.
There was obviously some things missing, and I think that they lost a few veterans.
Yep.
They had a major change in coaching, which always affects teams, and there's only so much that their top players can do to mask issues. It's unfortunate, but Kenneth Walker is always hurt.
Yeah.
He is a really, really great young player in this league. He's electric when he's on the field. I loved watching him at Michigan State. I love watching him in the NFL. But the issue is I don't get to watch him enough because he's injured. And Charbonnet is an excellent backup. Could start on some teams in this league.
Yes, he could. Absolutely.
But he's not Kenneth Walker. And he's not what Kenneth Walker is. And he's not what Zach Charbonnet can be when Kenneth Walker's healthy. Because Charbonnet has the second punch it's nasty. So we want to see this team healthy. Offensively, they've really put up numbers. I think they're struggling defensively.
Yeah.
Listen, we saw the devastating, heartbreaking loss for the Giants a couple years ago when they really needed that Seahawks win.
Yep.
And they dropped it on special teams.
Yep.
Well, the shoe's on the other foot now, and the Seahawks are struggling.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that they're going to have a losing record this year, but I think they're going to be as close to 500 as you can be. They have a tough couple games right now that they're going to have back to back to back. They have in Atlanta, home against the Bills. The Rams are a team that can put up points and look like they might be getting healthier.
Yep.
Then they're in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Then they have the Cardinals who have been feisty, in New York against the Jets, and in Arizona.
Yeah.
This is not an easy back half of their schedule.
It's not.
And then they play the Packers and the Vikings and the Bears.
Yeah. It's not easy, that's for sure. You mentioned the Rams. That's my one point, the Rams over the Raiders. There is talk of Cooper Kupp being back potentially this week, which, look, the Rams need him. They need him on the offense desperately. Because
I heard Puka also might be coming back.
Puka might be, yeah. I mean, the LA's 1-4, I think, 1-5, something like that.
Yeah.
So you need your weapons back, and if this is a game. The Raiders just lost their top target, Devontae Adams. Look, Brock Bowers hasn't been bad. He has not been bad. But the Raiders are in flux right now, man. And this is the if you're the Rams, you can't beat the Raiders when they're in flux like this, then what hope do you have this season? You know?
That's when these trade rumors start to happen.
Yeah.
We'll talk about moving quarterbacks.
Look, if I got to hear one more Matt Stafford to the Giants rumor, I'm gonna, you know.
Some guy made a graphic reported by Adam Schefter. Do you know how many times I got texted this week?
Oh yeah.
Oh, sure. Stafford's a Giant now? That's crazy.
No,
he's
not. That's
a bad idea. But it's not happening. First of all, I don't even know if they'd be able to do it cap wise.
No, I don't think so. But is it really that good of an idea? I mean. Is he better than Daniel Jones? Yes, but it's an old stopgap just to get you to next year when you're drafting a quarterback anyways, right?
Look, let me just say this. In the past 7-8 years, teams that did not have Patrick Mahomes won Super Bowls by trading for quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Stafford, Brady, even Manning.
Yeah.
It's just the way things are now. You build a really good team, and either you draft a great quarterback or you trade for a great quarterback. But you can't. It's become increasingly difficult to build a team with a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to fit him in after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting one. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. If that even happens. I mean, who even knows at this point? If the Rams go so far south that they're trading Matt Stafford, then there's no hope for them. You know, it's bad. And to close things out, mascot went Denver, Pittsburgh, Miami, all upsets and all just annoying. Just that's how things go around here. But yeah, I mean, look, that's the fun of it. That's the fun of what we do and the fun of why we talk about it and have all that sort of fun. You have anything you want to get off your chest? Any kind of ranting you want to do there, Justin? Or are we're wrapping this up for the evening?
I don't know. I think we covered pretty much everything.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. No. We didn't talk about, but
No fantasy gripes you have with anybody
This week?
Yeah.
I mean,
because I got a gripe right now. Cortland Sutton, get a point scored for me on fantasy. Come on now, what are you doing?
yeah, I mean, there's a couple guys that I wish performed a little bit better last week. I've lost by, I think, 3 points. I've lost pretty much every game in my big league by like very, very little. I think one game I was blown out, and the other ones are. It sucks being you're top 5 in points. I got Derrick Henry. I got Tony Pollard who's going off. Even Tony Pollard is having a good year.
Yeah, he's having a great year.
I'm just losing just by a little bit every week.
Yeah, it's bad. It's
top
bad,
5 in points, but top 5 in points against.
Yeah, again, I'm all missing for some one catch, Cortland Sutton, just one catch. I'm playing the Saints defense right now. They're not doing very well. You just have to give me a point of any kind would be great. But that's why we play the games, right? That's why we play the games. Why we have fun.
He's the second half guy, Rick. He's coming.
I'm hoping it'll be great. But we'll definitely hear more about that next week, and I think we'll all be back next week. I think, well, whoever knows, schedule wise or in flux or whatnot. But other than that, it's been a great Thursday evening of chatting. We're running up to the hour where we both have to head off to bed, get back to work. Because tomorrow's a working day.
Almost 10 o'clock. Jeez.
I know. Jeez, it's a working day. So on that note, for those of us who couldn't be here, well, too bad for you. And for those of us that were here, thank you all for joining us this evening. We will see you next week, God willing, and whatever day do you pray for, willing, hopefully, for some more fun football and chaos, as he who shall not be named always says. And good luck to you on the games.
We're
good luck to you on the games, and good luck to you on the picks. And we'll see y'all next week.